It's safe to say things change pretty quickly in the NBA. One minute you're seen as a future dynasty, the next minute your championship window is shut and you're seen to be wasting the prime of one of the greatest players in NBA history. The reality is, nothing is guaranteed in the NBA, unless of course you have Nikola Jokic, who can guarantee you a spot in the playoffs regardless of who is on his team. You, me, and Michael Malone could be on the court and we would still win 48 games. But the question marks over the Denver Nuggets aren't over their regular season wins. It's the risk they have taken over this offseason, opting against re-signing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, choosing to elevate third-year player Christian Braun to a starting spot, placing more responsibility on the shoulders of second and third-year players in Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson, and they signed this guy. If the Denver Nuggets offseason wasn't already polarizing, adding Russell Westbrook guaranteed that. And call me an optimist, or call me a glazer, which I'm sure some people will do, but with the talk coming out of Denver's training camp from both Russ and Michael Malone, plus having actually watched Reggie Jackson last season, I can't see a world in which Russell Westbrook isn't at least a slight positive for this team entering next season. But we'll get back to what Russ could provide a little later. That's not really the reason people are questioning Denver entering this season. The biggest reason, or biggest reasons, are what we saw from Jamal Murray during the Olympics and playoffs, and then the loss of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Because we all know for Denver to be a championship team, for anyone to be a championship team in the NBA, you need a second option. And during the 2023 championship run, Jamal Murray was unbelievable, hitting jumper after jumper after jumper, playmaking at a high level, and just looking like the perfect partner for Nikola Jokic. The 2024 playoffs, however, didn't go so well, having a drop-off in points, rebounds, assists, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage, whilst averaging more field goals per game and more turnovers per game. And this led into an Olympics, which was just shocking. There are no other words than shocking, awful to describe Jamal Murray averaging 6 points on 30% from the field during the Olympics. But having said all of this, we have years of proof from the regular season and the playoffs that Jamal Murray is an elite jump shooter, that Jamal Murray has incredible chemistry with Nikola Jokic, and that you can trust him to make plays in the biggest moments. And even if you think he's a Jokic merchant, which I disagree with, that doesn't mean anything, because they're going to be playing together for a very, very long time. So it doesn't matter if he needs Nikola Jokic is going to be on his team, whether people like it or not. But I feel like most people should at least recognize Jamal Murray is a good NBA player, even if they believe he's overpaid. Now, a player who isn't really known at all to most NBA fans is now the Denver Nuggets starting shooting guard. And this right here is a legacy-defining move for Calvin Booth and the Denver Nuggets ownership, because they chose against re-signing a proven winner, a proven 3-and-D wing, and someone who, according to all reports, was willing to stay in Denver in the hopes of cutting costs and elevating a third-year player to the starting spot. Sounds pretty bad, right? Well, it's not all bad, because whilst Christian Braun doesn't have the experience of KCP, and he isn't the same quality of shooter, the most important attribute that Denver need from their shooting guard is defense, and Christian Braun certainly provides that. Just take this play for example, where he's initially guarding Mike Conley. Naz Reid slips the screen, which gets the switch onto Braun, but even after the quick step from Reid, look at the ability from CB to recover and just rip the ball. Or how about on this occasion where he's guarding, LeBron James, he absorbs that hit from LeBron, sticking with him before blocking the shot at the rim. That is a guard, taking a hit from LeBron and then blocking his shot at the rim. And it's the physicality which Braun has that I believe is the reason the Nuggets let go of KCP, outside of them potentially just being really stingy, which would be worse. But with matchups in the Western Conference like Luka, Ant, Shea, Kawhi, LeBron, you name it, Braun feels like a better matchup for those guys. Even though there is no answer for them, we've seen his physicality shine as opposed to KCP, who is incredible at getting around screens and staying attached to shooters, but he doesn't seem to have the same kind of physicality and strength as CB. And I know what people are thinking. What about the spacing? With Christian Braun, with Peyton Watson, with Russell Westbrook, with Aaron Gordon, and maybe even Nikola Jokic forgot how to shoot the ball if we're going off the playoffs and Olympics. But what I will say, however, is since Aaron Gordon was traded to the Denver Nuggets, in fact, even before then, but let's focus on since he has been a Nugget, this is what the Nuggets' offensive rating and net rating has looked like with all four of Porter Jr., Jokic, Murray, and AG on the floor at the same time. And a lot of those minutes were with KCP, but even in the small sample sizes without him, the Nuggets have pretty much been completely unstoppable offensively when those four share the floor. And it makes sense, right? You have the best pick and roll duo in the NBA, surrounded by one of the best shooters in the league in MPJ, and then you have Aaron Gordon, who, well, has perfect chemistry with Nikola Jokic. So offensively, Christian Braun doesn't have a very difficult job. Spot up and knock down some corner threes, and use his size to be a threat as a cutter, which he was able to do off the bench last season. I imagine that job is only going to be 10 times easier playing alongside Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, as opposed to Reggie Jackson and Zeke Naji. And this is not to say the Denver Nuggets aren't taking a risk, because they are taking a massive risk in the prime of Nikola Jokic's career, but if Christian Braun has any chance of being a good NBA starter, which I believe he does, what better opportunity than playing alongside these four players? But we still need to talk about Russell Westbrook, because even if he only plays 25 minutes a night for Denver as a bench player, you know damn well he will be the second most talked about player on this entire roster, and at times, the most talked about player, because that's just how it's always been for Russell Westbrook. But what people need to realize is Denver didn't bring in Russ to average a 30-point triple-double or even to be a spot-up shooter. They brought him in to be Russell Westbrook, but in a more limited role, and that's exactly what Russ has said.
Coach Malone allowed me to be able to use my speed, use my transition skill to be able to make other guys better. Makes the game easy for everybody surround me, and that's what I love to do best.
And it's not just what Russ has said, which is interesting, but I also really like what Michael Malone said about his intangibles and the energy he brings. Because for anyone who watched the Nuggets last season, there was a spark missing. This is not just me saying this in hindsight after them losing, but there was a flatness to the team in the regular season and the playoffs that wasn't there in the championship season. In fact, both Michael Malone and KCP went on record talking about how the Nuggets were gassed during the playoffs. And we can talk about Russ's flaws, with his turnovers and his three-point shooting immediately coming to mind, but even his biggest detractors can all acknowledge he plays with 100% effort every single game. Aaron Gordon even said that about him in practice already. And this is very similar to another sixth man the Nuggets had in their championship season, Bruce Brown, who felt like the spark plug whenever the Nuggets needed that jolt of energy. Having that with Russ might be the most underrated part of the signing. Forget about all the attributes he could bring from a skill perspective, just having someone with great leadership quality and energy could help push this team to that next level. Not to mention, he's going to have an opportunity to run the offense with the second unit. The Nuggets will give him the keys and hope that his combination of downhill speed and playmaking can open up the game for the likes of Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther, who they are gambling on making big improvements this season. I'm not too worried about the Nuggets starting lineup this season, and this is coming from someone who believed KCP was one of the best 3-and-D role players in the league, but what I am worried about is the bench. If Russell Westbrook can provide playmaking, energy, and just a fraction of what we saw even in Washington a few seasons ago, that will be an astronomical upgrade on what we saw from Reggie Jackson. I promise you that much. Now, if you want to know why Jamal Murray should bounce back this upcoming season, well, I made a video talking about that. If you want to see why Nikola Jokic is the GOAT, I made a video talking about that. Or if you just want to see more content going forward, consider subscribing. It's free. Regardless of what you do, have a great day. Bye.